Welcome to my classroom management plan. My name is Emma Jo Irwin, and let's get started. So, my philosophy of classroom management, or my definition of classroom management, is creating a structured, respectful, and engaging environment for academic and personal growth for your students. It's not just about keeping order in your classroom, but it's more about setting clear expectations, good routines, and supports that guide your students toward independence. My beliefs about students' roles include that students are capable of taking ownership over their own learning and their behavior. However, I believe that they need clear expectations, encouragement, and meaningful engagement from their teachers. Students' responsibilities include respecting themselves, their teacher, their peers, and the classroom community, as well as coming prepared to learn each day. Students are individuals that deserve respect, support, and opportunities to grow into responsible learners. My beliefs about teachers' roles include that they need to create a positive learning environment that promotes academic and personal growth for students that will go far beyond the classroom and will continue to guide them throughout their learning career and in their life later on. Teachers need to set clear expectations and boundaries while also remaining approachable, consistent, and encouraging to their students. They need to manage their students instead of simply just disciplining them. They also need to build a classroom that runs smoothly and allows students to focus on their learning. My beliefs about managing the classroom include the idea that a well-designed classroom management system provides structure, clarity, and community so that all students can thrive both academically and socially. Also, I believe that managing the classroom includes having those clear expectations and procedures, but also it must include having meaningful relationships and respectful relationships between those student and teachers. And having this helps a student to really take ownership of their behavior and their learning. So my theory of classroom management. I plan to use a hybrid classroom management approach, and it blends a structured base program, which includes guidance from a teacher and expectations and the teacher really helping to guide and mold the student. However, it also includes opportunities for students to have choice. This is grounded in William Glasser's power of choice theory, that when students are given responsibility and choice, they learn to self-regulate and make constructive decisions that help them learn behavior management skills that are going to help them beyond the classroom. However, these choices that are offered must be aligned with that foundation, that base. And so this kind of goes to the assertive discipline model, where teachers must communicate their expectations and be consistent with those. And so it kind of balances this idea of authority with respect, so that students have something, they have expectations and rules to kind of set them up. However, they're kind of in charge of their own regulation and their own behavior. Also, I see misbehavior as an opportunity for student growth rather than just a harsh punishment. And all these theories together kind of form this comprehensive system that promotes that self-discipline, that community, and the academic success, which is how I intend to run my classroom. Here are a few of my routines and procedures that I have listed. I believe that consistent procedures ensure that learning time is maximized and that disruptions are minimized. Basically, each routine will be explicitly taught, modeled, and practiced until students can perform them independently. Basically, this just ensures that the class will run smoothly and that we have more time for students to really grow and to learn, rather than to sit and struggle with simple tasks that this helps to minimize that struggle. So as you can see, we have a few of these, like the beginning of the period, where students will enter quietly and take their seats and begin the daily bell ringer activity. And this continues to go through attendance and just different activities. But if students can practice these at the beginning of the semester or at the beginning of the year, then by the end of the year, they'll have the hang of it and it'll just save all of us time and make everything easier. Here is my physical classroom environment. As you can see, I plan to teach ninth grade English, and so that involves a lot of discussion about the literature that we read. And so one big thing that I have here that I really enjoy is this U-shaped desk. However, it's also paired into twos, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So you can see the big U-shaped desk here. You can see the teacher desk with the whiteboard and the weekly agenda and all the important notifications here. We'll have our expectations on each side. This will be for homework and Miss Trey's. We have the emergency binder and kit. And then back here in the back of the classroom, we have this chill library that has some comfy furniture with a library behind it. So the U-shaped desk arrangement basically just promotes discussion, collaboration, shared ownership of conversation. It enhances eye contact, student discourse, and engagement, and supports deeper literacy learning by allowing students to see and respond to one another. And like I said, I'm going to teach English, and so there's going to be a lot of conversation, and this just kind of helps students to really feel comfortable and feel like they're a part of something bigger than just themselves, having to answer questions or discussing with just themselves, but rather they're looking at one another and engaging with one another. I also I like having the desks. having the two at each desk because it makes it easier to do just small group work. So it allows that transition to be quicker from having small group versus whole group discussion. My teacher desk is placed at the top left, and it's positioned for clear visibility for the whole classroom. So that way I can see everybody and be able to monitor everybody. But also, if the students are discussing, I'm close enough proximity-wise to be able to discuss with all my students. Also, the bottom, the chill library, it's also going to be like a reflection space. So that will provide like a calm area for self-regulation for students to go and just kind of chill. Also, we have on the sides, we have our expectations and routine so that everybody can see it. It's going to be posted on both sides so that all people can see it and have a reference to it at all time. And then also the weekly agenda, daily goals, homework, all of that will be at the front so that everybody can see and is facing it. And then the safety and accessibility measures we'll have at the bottom that clearly have our emergency exits with our evacuations. And one big thing with the U-desk is it'll take up a lot of room, so one thing I would have to ensure is that the pathways are kept open. And I got to make sure that I have an emergency kit stored, near the door. My behavior management plan. Behavior management is essential because it creates the structure and the predictability that students need to feel safe, focused, and ready to learn. I believe that when your expectations are clear and consistently reinforced from the beginning of the year, then instructional time will increase and disruptions will decrease, and students can develop the self-regulation skills that are necessary for both academic success and healthy social interactions. So clear expectations. I believe that expectations are really important because if you don't have that good base, good expectations, then students don't know what you're asking of them. So here's just a few that I have in mind, and mine are geared more toward high school, but be prepared. Bring all your necessary materials, assignments, homework, each day to class. You know what you have to bring, just make sure that you bring it. Be in your designated space, be on task, be respectful, be responsible. And then since my desks are in U-shape and my class will be discussion based, I also have whole group discussion expectations. And I think this is important to have in your classroom if you're going to have something that you designate a lot of time to, whether this is small group, whether this is individual work, whether it's whole group, whether it's walking around the classroom or like a gallery walk or something you do consistently, then you need to have clear expectations for that so your students can know what they should be doing. And so as you can see, I have participate actively, listen carefully, use academic and respectful language, support your opinions with evidence, and encourage others. So you can see that I have those expectations there. My reward system, I want my kids and my students to be motivated, and I want to reinforce their positive behavior. And so, a few things that I have with this that combine the intrinsic and extrinsic rewards is verbal praise and recognition for when they are meeting those expectations. One thing I really like and I've seen be successful with high schoolers is positive letters or phone calls home. I think sometimes students really just want that validation from their parents or their guardians, or I want them to know that they're doing really good at school. And I think a lot of time when you offer your student a choice, they often choose this one from what I've seen. Also, individual incentives such as homework passes or classroom privileges. And I believe that, if you have the incentives listed of what kind of choices they have and allow them these individual incentives, then they'll be glad to choose something like a homework pass or those privileges. My consequences for misbehavior, I believe that you must have consequences for misbehavior, or else it doesn't offer the student an opportunity to grow and to learn. However, I do think that every misbehavior is that opportunity, and a student should be given time to reflect and to see how they can do better in the future. So my consequences kind of align with that. So my first is a reminder. I want it to be private and respectful, such as like, hey, I need you to be on task with your small group. I don't want to embarrass a student. I just want to gently remind them of the expectation that I need them to do. Second, if they're continuing to not do that, I want to offer them a choice. For example, would you prefer to work independently or join another group? If there's a situation and I can see that the student is having a misbehavior because of, exterior elements or because of other kids or whatever the thing may be, offer them a choice that will help them to get out of that misbehavior. However, if the misbehavior continues, I believe in the behavior story. Having them do this either during lunch or after school, and this basically allows them to reflect on their actions, and it basically helps them to come up with an appropriate replacement behavior. So, like, this is the behavior that I was doing in the moment because I felt these emotions and these feelings. This is what I should have done, and this is the behavior that I should have presented. And by the time they get done with that, they recognize where they went wrong and how they could have done better in the future. For behavior that continues, I think a behavior contract works really well because it kind of goes along with those incentives, and it kind of outlines like these goals and rewards and makes them accountable for their behavior and gives them something to be motivated for. And then, of course, parents or guardians will also be contacted at this stage. Instructional strategies. Implementing some diverse instructional strategies, I think, is crucial for just maximizing student engagement and success. However, they must be taught and modeled and practiced in order to be successful. For example, turning in assignments. Step one would be to introduce the procedure to my class. For example, hey, I will explain why turning in work correctly is important for fairness and organization. I will also explain why finishing assignments on time is important, and students will learn that this procedure helps ensure every assignment is accounted for and graded promptly. Step two, I'm going to model the procedure. So I'll demonstrate step by step on how to submit assignments into the designated bin, showing both correct and incorrect methods to highlight the expectations even further. Step three, I want to practice the procedure. So students will practice submitting mock assignments until everyone understands and performs the process efficiently, and basically reflecting afterward to see what worked well and what could be improved and allow them to kind of have some choice with that. Parent and guardian communication is really, really important. I believe that effective communication with parents and guardians is crucial for student success. I think that this includes giving them regular updates through emails and newsletters, but updates that provide insights on what we're doing in the classroom. So, for example, classroom activities and projects, or their students' progress, or their child's progress. Important announcements such as this is what we're going to be doing in class this week, or this is the projects we're going to be doing. And it just helps them to really get engaged in their child's education. Also, allowing students to be involved, allowing parents to be involved, creating these involvement opportunities. Basically, enhancing this partnership or creating this partnership between home and school and just allowing parents or guardians to be involved in their students' life. And I think that this will help this student's learning experience and will just help them feel really supported both at school and at home. Here I have an example of a letter, basically just to describe, what we're doing at the beginning of the year and just introducing who I am and what our class will look like and how I want every parent or guardian to be involved and stay connected through updates and to be able to communicate with me and just allowing them to realize that I'm open to communication and that I want that and encourage that so that we can both support their student um, to work together to ensure that the student has a really successful school year. So this was my classroom management plan. Thank you.